And we're live, Kiwi.
We're live. Cool. Hey guys, how you all doing?
There's nobody there yet. There's only one. You're talking
only
to
one
yourself.
person. Oh, I talk to myself a lot.
Well, you're alone in the shop now.
I am alone in the shop. Yeah.
See, there's still only one person. No, we're done, man. Nobody said, oh wait, we got a thumbs up. The one person gave us a one thumbs up.
There you go.
So we were supposed to do this last night, and I got hit with an unexpected fever. One of my grandkids just out of the blue came down with this thing over the weekend, and then a couple days later, naturally, I get it. They're like a science experiment, you know.
The kids, yeah.
They're little bio labs, you know. So,
Yeah,
but I lived.
Good luck making them wear a mask.
I lived. I think I lived. Okay, so I used to do that Wednesday night tech talk thing with Dallas.
Yep.
And Dallas does it with Shane Polito now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they do a nice show. But I miss doing it. I miss doing the whole Q&A thing.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. The ones I've done, which is not many, but the ones I've done are good.
Yeah. So here we go. Let's do this.
All right.
You can, between the two of us, I mean, you know everything about pretty much like everything. Kinda. And I know some things, or at least I've read about that.
And you're learning about bodywork.
If I'm learning, I do it very badly. I just don't have the eye for it.
You got to start somewhere.
You're an artist.
Somewhere. Where we go?
So good evening, everybody. Let's see. Sean Fagan, why does my spark gap get bigger when I spread the plug?
Spread the plug? Not sure what he means.
I think we're done for the night. Fubar! There's Fubar.
Hey, Fubar. How you doing, man? And Terrence Seymour.
Seymour.
First snow on the real pay today. Cool. Well, it's not completely useless information, but not many of the locals here are going to know what the heck you're on about. But I do, so it's cool.
I bet you get a lot of our guys, your guys pop in here.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I've got crossover.
Yeah, I've got quite a few Aussie and Kiwi subscribers, which is kind of fun.
Tavo Garage, what's happening, man? Let's see. So yeah, just hit him with anything. Kiwi knows like way too much. He's like a walking encyclopedia of stuff that I can't even spell these things. It's terrible. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What's on the B? What's happening?
61 caddy where they put Bondo over the trim. Would it be easy to remove? Ooh, that's unusual. I'd have to say no, it won't be easy to remove. I mean, you can grind the Bondo off, but I'm guessing you want to save the trim.
How would you go about getting Bondo off
of? Yeah, I haven't. I'm assuming that they've done that to like smooth it in, to blend it in, so it doesn't look like trim. It's just like a continuation of the bodywork, and that's just not going to work. It's going to crack. So, yeah, I would. All you can do is just go slow and take it easy and try to sand it, cut it, file it, try some different things and see what's working. If you can get it thin enough, you may be able to then dig in with like a small screwdriver and actually gouge some of the filler out that's in the gap between the bodywork and the trim. But that's all I got. That's a very agricultural way of smoothing the body out.
I usually use cardboard. Yeah.
And only in the cardboard. Only in the chassis, though, right?
Well, I figure nothing lasts forever. You know what I mean? Entropy is the state of the universe, and so why not just speed it along? You know, a little cardboard, a little Bondo. Well, it's all good. It's all good. Richard Ruggiero, supercharger information. The only supercharger information I'm good with is traditional roots style, 671, 871, 1471. But I don't know if you have any questions along those lines. Made muscle. Kiwi, how many hours does a man need to work in your shop without pay to have a 68 Camaro painted for free?
A couple. Now, just to let you guys know, Barry has moved on. He's, he stumbled on a good opportunity and he's taken it. And we were workmates for 6 or 7 years, and I wish him the best of luck. But currently, we're not painting cars. until, you know, at such time as I can find a good painter. I can paint. I can't paint like Barry. But, you know, it's good painters are really hard to find.
Let's see. Ronnie Vauclane. I finally got me a point distributor for my 86 Dodge truck with a 318. Hope it helps. Old distributor, and it's not very good. They're pretty foolproof. Let's see. Uncle Kiwi's Mopar Classic and Customs. Uncle Kiwi, that's a good name for you. I like that. It's got a ring.
It's got a ring.
Yeah. Why do I look so dark and like small compared to you? You're like light and big, and I'm like this little dark thing.
I am wider and bigger than you. That's right.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you are wider and bigger.
Especially the hair. We don't get to see you. We only get a little bit at the back.
Right.
So, you know.
Well, because the glare from the lights would just.
Yeah. But dang, I remember when I used to have a bit of black in that hair, and now it's just all silver.
What's that?
I used to have a bit of black in this hair once upon a time.
See, I have no gray hair in my hair, right? But I got my beard is gray. My beard's like a bunch of different colors. Have a grudge. Can anybody paint like Barry? No, nobody can paint like Barry. He's the only one, the only person who had that skill. Let's see. UTG, how do I limit mechanical timing on a Ford points distributor? You can get a curve kit. I don't know from where, who's currently making them, but I'm sure they're out there. You get a curve kit, and it works the same on a points distributor as it does on an electronic distributor, like a Prestolite distributor. Did I say Prestolite? What's the Ford?
Autolite.
Oh, no. What's the Ford electronic from that era, from the 70s? I said Prestolite. Maybe it is Prestolite.
Not sure. Sorry, you got me.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, I know they're factory Ford, but Famoco, isn't it? Famoco?
Yeah. But there was a name. Somebody come up with it before the
Duraspark.
Duraspark. There you go.
go.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so it worked the same on a Duraspark as it would on a points distributor. And it's just a curve kit. Just Google curve kit for that. Tony, did I happen to see Shane and Dallas's live yesterday? I did not.
What's on the? Yeah, I saw that fastback. He's done quite a nice job on that. You know, you can't complain. He's, in my opinion, and I really don't want to sound like I'm like berating him, but he's gone fairly safe. It just looks just like a Cougar fastback. Like there's nothing. I like stuff a little more custom. That's why we're moving wheel arches and we're not just adding the fastback. You know, like we've put the 69 back on it, so it's got a little bit of a spoiler.
It's against your religion to leave well enough alone.
Yeah, that is a problem. Yeah,
you know,
that is a problem.
That's not modified. Get that out of my shop.
I've been looking at buying an old 65 Falcon Ute or a truck, just as a little shop hack. And I just start thinking, well, we could put a 2-door hardshop windshield in it and bring the roof down a little bit, and we could do this, and we could extend out the beeper. And it's like, no, stop. Like, it'll turn into a 5-year project if I start messing with it.
I always say with stuff like that, it's like that's a lot like work. And if I want it to work, I get a job.
Well, yeah. Well, you are in that enviable position here.
True voice of reason. Welcome to Uncle Kiwi's and Tony's Tapas and Taqueria.
Unfinished project. Chris, do you still have the 66 Mustang with a 557? I most certainly do. I think I'll probably die with that. Mainly because my son has stuck a big claim in it. He wants that no matter what. That
is such a sweet car. And I'm telling you, that was the best video you ever did. The walk around you did at your house of that car. I thought that was the best video you did. That was like, because you were just totally in your element there.
Well, I was in my element, and I know there's nothing I don't know about that car.
Yeah.
Because you just know it intimately when you put as many thousands of hours as I did in that car. So it was just telling my story. But yeah, it was a good video, and it's probably the highest viewed one I've done. So
Mitch, any tips on buying early Gen 1 Hemi engines? Tips on them? Not really. I mean, they're overall, the quality of those engines was like next level. The metallurgy was fantastic. All the machine work was fantastic. I mean, like it's like it was the epitome of post-war American engineering. You just can't beat them. As far as any particular tips, I can't think of any. The only one of those engines that I know of that I'm aware of that has like an inherent issue are the first generation Dodges. Okay, so the 241s, the first generation Dodge Red Ram. First year they had a problem with snapping crankshafts, and I don't know what the cause of that was. Never really interested enough to dig in and find out what the actual reason was because those are very obscure engines. But aside from that, I cannot think of a single known flaw or shortcut handicap in any of those engines. They're fantastic.
Now, somebody was asking about the Ford Tech Maven, best single mod for a first year 4.6 Mustang GT.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, not your cup of tea, is
Not
it?
my cup of tea at all.
Now, that Mustang we just sent home, the Black 67's got a 4.6 in. That's a 2008 engine. So I'm not sure whether I don't think that's the first year. Now, I don't know a lot about that engine, but what I do know is that it's had the only thing the owner did to it was put some smaller like drive pulleys on it, just to slow things down a little bit. Which gets rid of a little bit of parasitic drag, and the thing just jumps like it's ridiculously fast. A customer came in one day and I said to him, "There's something wrong with your engine in that car," and he's like all concerned and like, "What?" And I said, "It just goes too fast to be a 4.6. It's bizarre." And the thing is, I mean, there's always a quicker car around. It's not like the fastest thing in Franklin, but it's really quite fast.
Did you see Unity Motorsports? Andy, he posted a video this last weekend. They went up to Twin Rivers, raised the sketchiest drag strip in America.
Right.
So they went up there and they ran. They have a Ford wagon. So it's not a Fox. So what's the bigger one than the Fox?
Granada or something? Not Granada.
No, it's got a 4.6.
Yeah.
On nitrous.
A Crown Vic or something.
It's not the Crown Vic. It's big. It's just bigger than the Fox.
Okay.
It's not the Fairmont wagon. It's the larger. Doesn't make any difference, right? It's got a 4.6. I can't say what it runs because it's a no-time car.
No, okay.
But it's absurdly fast for what it is, and it's on nitrous. You got to see this thing and hear it, right, to believe the way it runs. And he says it's a stone off nitrous. It won't run off the bottle, but on the bottle it goes real fast. Real fast.
Yeah. Cool. Now, Dean Stevenson made a comment about the Kiwi Classics and Customs don't use the acronym. We did actually, when I first put a name on the business, I thought about spelling the Customs with a K.
Oh yeah, I made that mistake once.
Yeah, and then the penny dropped because and it's like, no, we need to spell it with a C.
I made that mistake once. Yeah, on a video where one of the early ones was a review. Yeah, I didn't think anything of it because back in the day, that was the thing. You spelled all of the custom car stuff with K's.
Yeah.
So I never thought anything of it. I just put it out there, and I found out real fast that people are highly sensitive these days.
It's not a good acronym. I
know. Tony. Oh, geez. Okay, that's Shane. Yeah, Shane, we got to get together, bro. I am so sorry. It went on the back burner when I got involved with other stuff. Shane, text me tomorrow morning. We'll get together and get that done. Thank you, bro. Let's see. Iceman 2K10. That was the mid-sized Marquise station wagon, still based on the. Oh, okay, it's still based on the Fox platform. Okay. Yeah, no, that car is just amazing. That car is inspirational, really.
What?
Let's see, bid 66 Chevelles. What's the difference between a Coronet versus a Plymouth? Forward look Mopars other than sheet metal. So forward look. Oh God. So there's always been a tradition, and it goes past that, right? Of a difference in wheelbase. Now I can't tell you if it's 1, 2, 3, 4 inches in wheelbase in any particular, any particular car line, any particular model period. But Dodges always have a longer wheelbase than Plymouth. That's the way Chrysler decided in its infinite wisdom to differentiate between the economy models and the step up models. So other than that, I really can't think of any other possible differences between a forward look era Coronet or a Plymouth. Okay. Kid, you take one now.
Okay.
Let's go back and forth.
Okay. Would you recommend what type of stall converter for a 2,400-pound circle track car with 450 horsepower? Whew, that's a tough one.
Well, why would you need a higher stall converter for a round track car?
Yeah, well, I was going to say it would probably depend on the track, the length of the track.
I would think that the only place that a stall converter, or not a stall converter, a higher stall converter would be of any benefit is pulling out of the pits. Because for a drag car, there's only one place where the converter makes any difference at all.
From the standing start.
Right, and that's before the car moves forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got to say you're right, Tony. That really, I mean, a lot of the circle track cars are direct drive.
Yeah, that's right.
You put them in gear, you push start them, and away you go. You don't want any parasitic loss through a torque converter. But I guess if he's got a converter, he must have a transmission, so he must be able to pull it in and out of gear.
Yeah. They were really saying to get off turns.
To get off turns, okay.
I mean, how low are you dropping the RPM to get off the turn? No, I think you're in the wrong train of thought, or I'm missing something, which is entirely possible because I'm not a circle track guy.
No, neither am I. But I would have thought you'd want direct drive off the turns, not
right.
slip.
Exactly.
But couldn't I've done a bit of like road course type racing, and that's a whole different animal to circle track. They don't really have much in common other than they use a four-wheeled car.
Well, I mean, drag racing is unique in that most of the action happens before the car actually moves. You know what I mean? It's all happening, that relationship between the throttle opening and everything finding its way through the drivetrain and then finally eventually putting the power to the tires. And then that's where that's the key to drag racing. And that's where a higher stall converter is a benefit because it allows the engine to come up into its RPM range.
Right.
But for circle track, unless you're coming way down, unless like coming off the turns, you're dropping down to like 2,500 RPM. Well, you don't need a converter. You need deeper gears.
This guy's asking about a parking brake on a 57 Plymouth. If I use a later 4-speed, maybe swap the rear end. Does the 57 Plymouth have that drum on the back of the transmission? Yeah. Well, that was probably not Mopar's finest moment.
No, wait, a lot of people did that.
Yeah, it's not unusual, but it's not that effective either.
Yeah.
But yeah, if
I'm not supposed. I'm not allowed to criticize anything Chrysler did during that golden. I just can't do it. People will hate me.
I just they've all got faults. They've all got.
But Chrysler has less faults than the others.
Yeah. Okay. Let's run with that. David Reed 800. Not sure what it's about.
Kiwi, have you done any LS swaps in your shop?
Yes, I have. We've done a few. We've done Camaros. I had a little bit to do with a Buick, like a Grand National, but it wasn't the actual Grand National, but that same body style with an LS in it. I got to drive a fun / terrifying, an old Jeep Cherokee, like the one you've got.
Okay, with an LS in it?
With a supercharged LS in it.
Oh, that has to be a handful.
And it was 4-wheel drive. They converted it back to a beam front axle.
Okay.
And it was terrifying. Like first was like, holy shit, and then second was like, oh fuck. It was like, whew. But yeah, at the same time it was fun. But definitely you were alive when you were on the loud pedal. Right? Do I have a favourite classic Holden? Yes, it would have to be the old Monaro, like the HT kind of body shape. Yeah, I do like those.
David Reed. Okay, won't bother you with left turns. Most say 2,000 to 2,500 stall. Well, that's what most converters are. Most stock converters are in the 2,000 RPM range.
Yeah.
Um,
The other LS, what we did was I put an LS into a 300Z, little Nissan.
I don't like the 300Zs. I like the earlier ones. I'm
the early Z
240s
cars are
and
nice.
260s. Yeah.
But yeah, that was yeah, I didn't enjoy that one. That it didn't really fit the way I thought it should have. It was super high, getting over the cross member, and most of it was hanging out the hood, and it just wasn't quite right. But customer wanted what he wanted. So, what do I think of Holden's? Yeah, that's a loaded question. Look, I mean, most of you know I'm a Ford guy, but there's nothing wrong with Holdens either. Like I did a video not long ago about quite a late model, 2014 Holden HSV, and that's just a spectacular car. Holdens are a great product, and it was a real shame to see them close it down and stop manufacturing. But they just, the market just wasn't big enough. They couldn't sell enough cars to justify retooling to make a whole new model. And they just had to listen to the bean counters and stop making cars and get cars from overseas and rebadge them. That was a real shame. And saying that, the last few Holdens off the line that actually made them in Australia, I mean, it's just a telephone number the price now. It's just absolutely insane. Like I saw an advert, and I assume it was legitimate. They wanted just over $1 million for an HSV Holden, and it was a super special one that they made like 8 of them, but gee, that's a lot of money. Yeah, if someone's prepared to pay for it, then good on them, I guess.
Glenn Nickerson, UT, do you think Dan will need extra tinfoil for his Nomad when he goes on power tour? Not so much extra tinfoil, but he's going to have to bring something like a Ouija board to properly diagnose things they're going to go along with that. So I think he'll be all right. Paul Cabazzola, Tony, did you read the comments on today's Plan Z video? If so, what do you think of my idea to preheat the intake with a heat gun before making a run? Far-fetched, but maybe. Well, yes and no. It's like an extra step, and I don't want to create extra steps. I want to have it all automatic, where I don't have to do anything. It'll achieve the temperature and maintain the temperature that I want it to without me having to do anything extra. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna, when we go out again, I'm just gonna sit and let it get hot before we pull out. So the 5 minutes or so before the lane starts moving, I'll start the car and let it just sit there and idle. And that should make the difference.
Rick S. 69 Barracuda had a cover on it dry, then the car leaks. Rained a lot now, huge permanent water stains on the hood. That's going to happen, bud, and you're probably stuck with it now. Even with a good quality cover, the paint doesn't like to sweat like that. Most covers are not completely waterproof. You will get a little bit of wicking through the fabric, and when it sweats, it's just a recipe for disaster. And yeah, sorry to tell you, but that's most likely not coming out. It's repaint it or look the other way.
Unfinished project, just a riser pipe off the header as a last resort. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, as a last resort. There's also an adapter for marine slant sixes that uses hot water. So I don't want to do that. So, but if I have to, I think that would be the next step that I would go, is use the marine water heater and then use the water pump line, what would normally be the heater lines on the water pump, and use those to plumb hot water. But that's a last resort. That's a last resort. I don't want to add anything. Okay.
Iceman, you ever worked on a car that made you nervous, as in its rarity? UT doesn't even get nervous doing a drag test on $1 million car. When did you drag test $1 million car?
I did a Hemi Daytona.
Oh, okay.
Way back when. It wasn't $1 million car then. It was like a $200,000 car then.
I mean, the thing is, a car's a car, you know. Like, and I've had a couple of rare ones in the shop that were worth a lot of money. And really, what makes me nervous is not so much driving them or working on them. It's somebody else drops something on it. Somebody walks past it with a wrench hanging out their pocket and scrapes down the side of it, or you break like a lens somehow that you can't buy. And you know, when they're really valuable, it does make you pay a bit more attention. But it's really, at the end of the day, it's nothing more than, you know, like if it's a nice Camaro or a nice Mustang, you take care of them as well.
You see, like, to me, right? They're all junk. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a one, you know, $1 billion car. It could be something out of the pull apart. To me, they're all the same. I wish I was different about that. I wish I felt differently about that, but I don't. It's the owners and it's the people who are around them with the perceived value of the car.
Yeah,
that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The car itself doesn't make me nervous, but the people around the car and what they perceive to be the car's value, that makes me nervous.
Chris Greenway, Kiwi, would you check a car in the area for me? Sure, but give me a call. Just Google me, you'll find me. Yeah, give me a call. I can check it out or have them. I mean, preferably I'd like them to come to the shop and so we can put it on a rack. It's really hard getting a good look crawling under a car, the kind of look that you're wanting me to look. But yeah, I do that quite often. You know, I'm happy to do that, and I've saved a few people a lot of money. Yeah, so yeah, sure, give me a call.
2 Hacks, what's happening, man? 2 Hacks wants to know, Kiwi, how is your Barracuda project?
Yep, moving right along. Man, well,
making some blinding progress on that, are you?
Yeah, I didn't order subframe connect. I ordered some material to make Kiwi subframe connect.
Right, because God forbid you should actually buy something that's
that's
fabricated by somebody else.
Well, that's acknowledging that they may have done it better.
And that's impossible. And you and I both know that. And so does, everybody here.
No, it's the ones you can buy actually for the A bodies are actually pretty damn good.
The US car tool ones?
Yeah, they're actually the ones that you weld up and they're profile cut to fit all the floor pan.
They are nice.
They're not a bad effort. For me, they're a little bit thin at the back where they hook into the rear subframe. Right. And that's what I'm trying to get around. So I mean, the Barracuda, it's on the drawing board, no doubt. I'm busy trying to catch up with a bunch of other projects that are also dragging on a little bit. You know, Barry's left, so it's down to me. I've got a new guy who's in for a few hours a day, but you know, which helps. But yeah, there's a lot to do in a limited amount of time. You know, I'd work 7 days a week, but then I'd probably find myself single, and I'm too old to be single. I don't have the energy anymore.
Mr. Roboto. Uncle Tony, help. My 440 loses oil pressure for a split second under hard acceleration. I did a whole video on exactly that. I can't remember now. Yeah, I did it like maybe 4 months ago. And it was a series of videos I did comparing the Chrysler engine to Chevys and oh God, what was it now? It'll come to me. But I was talking about the inherent design flaw in the Chrysler oil pan because of the rear steer nature of the Chrysler cars. So the sump has to be moved forward, like a Ford, right? The sump has to be moved forward in order to clear the center link. So because of that, the whole back third of the engine doesn't have any drain back to the sump during hard acceleration, and that's killed so many Chrysler engines. But yeah, I did a whole video specifically on that. Okay.
Mexican spec. Kiwi having trouble finding guys who want to work. Yes, that's part of it. I think the bigger problem is there's just not the guys out there that know how to. There are good guys out there. The ones that are good usually got their own shop, or they're at one of the bigger shops, you know, Kindigit or somewhere like that, getting paid very well because and they're worth it. You know, they're worth that money they're getting paid. But yeah, that's sort of the situation, and all the rest, you know, they're full of good intentions. But good intentions don't always get it done. They can help for sure, but guys that can work sheet metal, guys that are good with a wrench, they're on the ground, especially with the old stuff. Because all the teaching, all the schools, all the classes, it's all modern stuff. Which, that makes sense too. You can't knock them for that, because the vast majority of cars, if you want to get into working on cars, the vast majority of cars are newer cars. So you kind of got to cater to the market, don't you?
Well, that's true, but we've also entered the era of the independent contractor now. Like, for instance, and like, okay, like what we're doing right now, YouTube, all right? This is a perfect example. 20 or 30 years ago, if you wanted to do something like this, you would have to have an in with a TV channel. You know what I mean? You'd have to have, like there's a zillion hoops to jump through, right? So, but now, because of the way YouTube is, anybody, even ding-dongs like us, can sit here in front of people and flap our gums, and there's no barrier to admittance. And it's the same thing with let's just say you're a home body man, okay? Now with social media, you can advertise. Like, you couldn't advertise before. I ran shops out of my house on and off for years. We could never advertise because it's an illegal thing. But through social media, it's like, hey, who does good body work? Oh, try Jim. He lives on my corner over here, right? So it's like we've entered the age of independent contractor, where anybody who has a talent or motivation, there's no reason to go work for anybody anymore. There's no reason to have like a full-blown shop or anything anymore. Just the equipment that you need to do, to work with your two hands.
Right.
So that's why it's so hard to find good labor, qualified help these days, because qualified help doesn't want to help. They want to do it for themselves.
Yeah. And I've even tried the local high schools. Gone to the shop classes and said, hey, have you got a guy that's like a standout in the class? And even just put a notice up for anyone in the class, to come by and like internship. Okay, it's free labor, but they'll learn some shit along the way. And like, just zero interest, zero response. I had one young guy come in, and he was all about the cars, loved the cars, and knew the makes and models and stuff like that. Just didn't really want to get dirty doing it. He just wanted to be like delivering the car at the end, the finished product. But it's like, you've got to get dirty, you've got to get nasty, you've got to get cuts and bruises, and they don't want to do that. It's the way it seems. I mean, I remember when I was like 16, 17, if someone with a hot rod shop had said to me, just come and hang around, sweep the floor, listen, watch, and learn a little, you would not have been able to keep me out of the place.
I did it anyway. I did it and was a nuisance and got thrown out of more places than you could. If it had anything to do with cars. I remember when I was a kid, I was like maybe 10, 11 years old, and there was a guy named George Holly, right? Coincidence, right? His name was George Holly, and he lived across the street and down a couple of doors from me, and he was a home mechanic. That's what he did. He just fixed cars. He had a one-car garage, and he fixed cars there. And I was like 10 years old, 11 years old, and all the other kids on the block were playing sports ball and the thing with the stick and all of that stuff, right? And I was over at George's scraping gaskets and cleaning cylinder heads and because he did a lot of engine work.
Right.
And like, I lived for that. I love that. I'd wake up in the morning, and as soon as I saw George's door open, I was like straight over there,
Yeah. Just Chris Creamy, I'd work for you for room and board and paint jobs.
Do you really want him to live at room and board?
I don't know the gentleman.
He's got a Montego GT. That should tell you everything you need.
A Mercury Montego. Well, that's okay.
He's got a 72. So you want him to live with you?
Well, I said his car was okay.
Eric Reyes, I was a high school shop teacher, and you'd be lucky to get one. It'd be lucky to get one or two kids in 5 classes of a day good enough to even be a decent mechanic.
Yeah. David Reed. Well, Kiwi, you'd work for me for $70,000 a year. Well, you'd be making more than me, so that doesn't really seem fair.
Oh, come on, you make that in an afternoon. I've seen the work that you do.
Yeah, but that's monopoly money, not American dollars.
What do you think American dollars are? Let me know when they pay you in silver.
Uh-oh, we've headed down the political road.
Yeah, we'll go right down the rabbit hole there.
Let's try to
Eric
avoid
Miller,
that.
thank you for the super chat. Hey, Kiwi, ever drive a Ford Falcon XW GT 351? You guys put a lot of letters in your stuff.
Hang on, where was that? I didn't
Right
see.
there.
Oh, have I? Yes, I have driven one, and it wasn't like the Phase 3, but it was like a regular GT 351. And yeah, for what it was and the time period it was a quick car. They were like a 13-second car, if I remember correctly. But they were a genuine factory hot rod. And that's borne out by the money they're fetching today, because people are realizing, or have realized, that they were actually quite a trick car. Like the factory put a lot of stuff in them that made them, they were genuine go fast thing. They were, Ford and GM, which is Holden, were very much about beating each other on the racetrack.
Los Cadaver will work for you for cigarettes and Big Macs. So there you go.
Keep your room and board.
Top that.
Smoke.
I would pick him up on that.
There's just no smoking in my shop, though.
I smoke in your shop.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do.
Okay.
Yeah. You're one of the few, but you don't work for me, so
That's true.
If you worked for me, it'd be like, nah. Middle of winter, snowing, you're outdoors if you want to smoke. Sorry, see ya. The Montego GT is the one you want me to check out. Okay. Okay. Is that I'm not sure whether this thing keeps scrolling up, so I don't always see all the questions.
You got to stay on top of it.
Is Kiwi a trivia buff too? What is the favorite topic? The favorite topic, Brett, would have to be cars. And actually, as a trivia buff, that would probably be the only skill set as a trivia buff that I have. Like, don't ask me about anything else. That's it. That's as far as my knowledge base goes as cars.
Sorry, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's a good question. Does Kiwi have any advice for Danny's BF EFI adventure? Are you familiar with Dan?
Unfortunately, not
He's not
sure what that is, bud.
It's my friend Dan, him from
him?
Yeah.
Them?
He's from Canada.
Not a them, is he?
No, I say him.
Is it him? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. He's up in Canada and he's got a '55 Chevy wagon. And what's his
channel?
Speed Shop.
DD Speed Shop. Yeah.
I brought them to your place
I've
to
met
meet
them.
you.
I've met them. Hey, bud.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're watching. He's having an EFI adventure. Yeah. Well, what's the BF?
I don't know what the BF is, but it's a fiasco. He's wearing aluminum hats now, tinfoil hats, and all kinds of things. I was just wondering if you had any advice for him.
Look, not on EFI. That's just not something I've ever gotten. I mean, my Mustang's EFI. It's got the Holly Terminator in it, and I take it to tuning guys to tune it because I'm like,
that's terrible.
I'm lucky to be able to send an email, or post YouTube videos. That's about. And you should have seen the fun and game of the first few YouTube videos I posted. That was an act of Congress getting that done. But I figured it out. So, can you hone a cylinder with a piston still installed on a 440? Well, I'm going to say no.
Not effectively.
No, because you can't get down to the very bottom where the rings are running. Not to mention the dirt and contamination and sort of sludge you create when you hone.
Well, I'm assuming, because I've run into this. I'm assuming that he has an engine that was stuck.
Right.
And he unstuck it and got the piston down, but it won't go back up because of the rust.
Oh, okay.
Right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, yeah, you can, if you get the piston to the very bottom of the bore, and you can bust the rust above the piston, but it's not really. What I would do at that point is take the piston out after you've broken up the rust, you've honed out the rust. Take the piston out, and then give that cylinder a proper hone up and down. And it's like a false economy also, because I will absolutely guarantee that if that motor is stuck because of rust in the cylinder walls, the rings are going to be embedded in the piston. So you're gonna have to take it apart anyway if you want to if you want to give it half a chance of ever running right.
Iceman, which car in the UT fleet would I like to get my hands on? Well, we were talking about that before the show started, and it's his 67 Charger.
Yeah, we both love that thing.
Yeah, that is cool, and I think you could make such a cool street machine out of that with the big wheels, big tubs.
You want to put big wheels on everything.
Well, yeah, it's that roller skate syndrome.
Yeah, have you ever seen that thing with the torque thrusts that are on there, the 15-inch torque thrusts?
Probably not. No.
Yeah, it looks right. It's in proportion.
Yeah, I just like those big, 14-inch wide tires and low, like really low. I think it just brings them alive. But
it's different tastes.
It's different tastes. It's not right or wrong. I'm not right.
Right.
Tony's not right. Tony's not wrong. I'm not wrong.
It's our taste.
Just what
your
like.
Taste is
subjective.
a little different than mine.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Someone else commenting about when I was 8 years old. Dominic, when I was 8 years old, would hang out at the local repair garage. The guy that managed the place had a 67 Chevelle. That's cool. Small block tunnel ram. Where'd he go? And I would watch them fix cars and hand them tools. And, you probably learn possibly even more than you realize at the time, particularly, about cars and what's, what goes into them.
Well, with Tech Maven, what he just said there, what got me into cars is my father's 31 Chevrolet with the valve cover off. He started it, and when I saw the rocker arms in motion, I was hooked. Dude, I had a very...
your brain is wired like our brain.
Yeah.
It's like, just looking at that, now it's like, the graphics on the Nintendo, whatever the hell it is, that's what kids do and are about. When it was us, it was like, look at the way that goes up and that goes, and that mechanical stuff was fascinating. So I'm right there with you, man.
I had that exact experience. I was already into cars. I was into cars from the time I was born. I just loved cars. I loved everything to do with cars and trains. But I was working in George's garage, and he had, I don't remember what it was. I don't remember the car, but it was an inline six, and he was doing a head gasket on it. And after we were done doing a head gasket, he cranked, or after we were done, cleaning everything off, he cranked the engine to just blow out the stuff that was in the cylinders with the pistons, with the head off. And I remember watching the pistons go up and down, in that straight six. Yeah. And that was that nailed me. I am an engine guy now. You know what I mean?
Mm. But yeah, things mechanical. Like, I think some of the coolest engines out there are those old. I actually put a thing on my Facebook. I did a little clip on one, and it was a V8 motorcycle engine that the guy built, and everything was external. It was a total loss oiling system, so no oil pan. All the valve trains out in the open. There's no valve covers because there's nowhere to even put a valve cover. There's your springs and push rods are all out there in the air.
Yep.
And it sounded absolutely amazing.
You ever watch a hit and miss engine run?
Yeah.
That's hypnotic. I mean, I could just sit and watch one of those things go all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sound all right. The other cool one is those two-stroke horizontally opposed diesels.
Yeah.
Where the pistons come together.
Yep.
And hit and fire, and they've got a sound all their own. And I mean, it's about as environmentally unfriendly as you can get, because there was a massive waste of fuel being two-stroke.
The environment is way overrated.
Steam trains are fascinating. Yep, Sean, I'm with you there. Maximum torque at 0 RPM on a steam engine. Like that. I mean, that just wrapping your head around that is like, oh, what? Yeah,
Paul Cabot's always why steam engines are so awesome. Everything is right out in the open. Yeah.
CW, the Fastback Sports Roof Cougar is awesome. Thanks, man. I mean, we're working on it. The owner would like me to work a bit more on it, but I'm spread a little thin. But we're getting there. We're going to be working on it tomorrow, trying to get the rear wheel arches back on. And we're going to, there's been a few guys kind of ragging on his choice of 20-inch wheels. And and so he's kind of taken that to heart a little bit. So we're going to try some 18s on there and see which way he decides in the end of the day, whether we're going to go 18s or 20s. Kiwi, are you a professional drag racing YouTuber? Would you ever drag race Uncle Tony for pink? Well, yeah, I'd put the Mustang up against Bottle Rocket.
Would you really?
Yeah. Not. I don't know. Well, not for pinks. The pinks is like the ownership of it.
Yeah, well, I would never go for pinks, but I mean, yeah, I'd run you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you definitely have more power than I do.
Right.
Right, but your car is not going to hook and go.
Yeah, there is that problem.
Yeah, I'll be way out there. you're still like backing.
No, I got to give you that. Like I've watched that video when you launched, and that thing picked the wheel. Some people talk about picking the front wheel up, and it's like a little whoop.
Yeah.
And it's like it picks the front wheel up. It's like a little bit. Yours just picked it up and held it there. And
twice.
Yeah.
Twice, because it was spinning the tires the same time it was doing that.
So the thing hooked. You can't. That's visible evidence that the thing's
that's drag racing.
Turning horsepower into forward motion.
That's the
key thing of drag racing. You've got 10,000 horsepower don't do you any good if you're not transferring it into forward motion. Patches 18s would be nice. Was that a comment about the? Well, maybe that's about the Cougar.
Okay.
Enough sandbags will make most cars hook. Well, that is true.
What did you say? Enough
sandbags will make most cars hook. Yep.
What was that?
That's it. Shakedown Kiwi versus
Bottle
Rocket.
Thump for the sweaty fat guy. I got a question for Tony. What is diesel powered? Feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
What is diesel powered? Has 2-inch diameter bore, no connecting rod, no valves, is fuel injected, no crankshaft, and you start it with a string. Oh, jeez.
No valves could be two-stroke, but how the heck? Oh, it's a rotary diesel of some sort.
Can you have a rotary diesel? I don't think you have a rotary
No, you probably
diesel.
couldn't. I don't know. Diameter. Well, rotaries don't have 2-inch diameter bores. Fuel injected, no crankshaft. Okay, I give up.
I give up too. If anybody else, Dumper, let people guess at that. Don't give the answer, right? Let's see if anybody gets it. Here's the question. What is diesel powered? Has a 2-inch diameter bore, no connecting rod, no valves, is fuel injected, no crankshaft, and you start it with a string. Jeez, that's a tough one.
Okay, Saint Tate was asking a question there about his V6 Camaro. Where'd that go? Oh, we'll have to wait for you. Saint Tate. I got an 81 Camaro V6 thinking of rebuilding and slapping a turbo on it. Any advice? Don't do it. Short answer. Buy a V8 car.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, let's just say he wanted to keep the car pretty much intact the way it is.
Okay.
And he just wants to buy a cheap eBay turbo and throw it on there. What would you tell him to do?
Okay, no, you make a good point. He
doesn't want to re-engineer the whole car. He just wants to bolt on a turbo.
Yeah, I guess it's that's kind of a plan for what you're doing, and I guess what the part of the missing information is, what are you wanting to get at the end of it? Are you wanting to build a sleeper kind of V8 beater, or are you just wanting to get an extra 20% horsepower? So without knowing exactly where you're going with it, that's and I guess my reaction on that with the V6 to V8, I get a lot of people asking me, what will it cost to change a 6-cylinder Mustang to a V8? And my answer is, don't buy the V8 car.
Right. Because it's just not worth it by the time you're done.
Well, I mean, it'll cost you, depending what motor you get in trans, but you could easily spend 10 grand. And the problem is, it will always be a 6-cylinder car. People will look at the number on the inner fender, the letter. It'll be a T car, and they'll go, and that's not really fair, but that's the reality of it.
That makes sense. But but in his situation, he's got this 81 Camaro V6 car, and he just wants to put a turbo kit on it. What would you say?
It's certainly doable. If you keep the boost, if you conservative on the boost.
Don't go nuts with boost, right? Because that's addictive, right? And it's like some is good, more is better, and too much just throws the crankshaft on the ground.
And if you start getting into, having to get special lower compression pistons, because they're not going to be readily off the shelf for a V6 unless they're the same as the V8 ones, are they? The
big thing isn't going to be the pistons per se, but it's going to be the rings and the ring gap.
Right.
Because you're going to be limited to how much. So the big limiting factor with boosted applications and nitrous is ring gap. So from the factory, rings are not gapped for boost. Rings are gapped for the normal combustion chamber temperatures that the pistons are going to see. And in theory, so let's say you start off with a ring gap that's like 12 thousandths of an inch, right? You start off there. By various calculations, that is going to close up to like 1,000th of an inch when everything is up to operating temperature. But now you put boost to it, or you put nitrous to it, and you significantly raise the temperature and the duration of burn in the combustion chamber. What's going to happen now is that the rings are going to try to expand beyond that gap, and they butt against each other. And when they butt against each other, there has to be some give, and that's what breaks pistons. The pistons themselves don't break. It's the rings breaking. With enough detonation, any piston will break.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's not the piston that breaks. It's the ring that breaks the piston. So that's going to be your limiting factor with any regular engine, any stock engine that you put a turbocharger on. And you're probably safe to like maybe 8 or 10 pounds of boost. And then beyond that, you really got to start thinking about it. But at that point, you want to start finding people who have done what you want to do with the engine that you want to do it on, like forums and stuff like that. Go to Camaro forums, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who've stuck turbochargers on the V6s, and they'll tell you, well, yeah, it was all good until I got to 12 pounds of boost and then bluey. So,
somebody was asking if we do the paint in the house. Up until about 2 weeks ago, we did. It was all Barry would do it all in the house. As I was saying earlier, Barry's moved on. So at the moment, we're farming it out. I'm lucky enough to have an in with a gentleman called Kevin Tates, who's a fairly well-known character and an artisan when it comes to painting. So he's going to be, I believe, painting the Cougar for us when that's ready, stuff like that. So there's where there's a will, there's a way.
D-Truth, Tony, will you race Unity Motorsports wagon? Not heads up. I know what it runs. So, no, I wouldn't race him heads up. I would maybe negotiate something.
Joe K, no, Kiwi Bird is not here. I forgot him. He was a little quiet today, so I kind of forgot about him. He's. I think he's mourning. He's missing Barry a bit, so he's a bit down.
But Barry's he's gone to a better place.
It sounds grim. He didn't die.
I didn't say he died. I just said he went to a better place.
To a better place. Well, that's
he's
what
in a better
they say
place now.
When you fall off your perch. Then he's gone to a better place. No, he's no. Like I said, I wish him all the best, and he's a good guy. And 7 years is a long time. A lot of marriages don't last that long.
That's
so,
true.
It's all good.
Did you guys try counseling?
We were throwing wrenches at each other from opposite ends of the workshop.
I'm sure there's somebody in the Nashville area that could, help you guys work through your issues.
Someone said, did you get a lead on the supplier for a Barra engine? I did find a company called Barra, I can't remember the name now, Barra something, LLC. It's an American company that's bringing them in from Aussie, and we're talking now. you know what a Barra is, Tony?
I know it's a foreign thing that you guys. Yeah.
Well, it is a foreign. It's an Australian-made Falcon 6-cylinder engine,
Yes.
which was the several iterations down the line from the old Falcon 6 you had here.
I've heard all sorts of great
Yeah.
things about
Oh,
that.
yeah, great
I'm
engine.
totally unfamiliar.
So yeah, it's a powerhouse of an engine, super strong.
How does it compare to the 2JZ?
Better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying that because it's Australian and that's Japanese?
Just the numbers that they're getting out of it.
Okay.
Really is that's based on it, and someone's going to argue that. The JZ believer is going to argue that, and it's like okay, but they're turning those Barras over 10,000 RPM,
which is just crazy.
And making big horsepower out of them, big horsepower out of them, and they stay together. But hey, Tavo, if you've got another any leads, please let me know, because at the moment this Barra Imports doesn't have any complete setups. What I'm looking for is an engine, transmission, computer, everything you need as a pullout out of one car. So this other company has got an engine, a transmission, a torque converter, gas pedal out of something else, and it's like this just seems like it's going to turn into a lot of aggravation, especially as we're not in Australia and you don't,
right.
Not everybody, most people don't know what a Barra is, let alone how to work on it. So I don't want to be caught high and dry with something that's not working. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is a complete engine, trans, lift out, drop it in, send it. Did you hear about what we're potentially putting it in?
No.
A 62 Falcon van.
Oh, nice.
Like an Econoline van, but they did make a small number of Falcon.
Yeah, no, I know that.
And yeah,
like the Corvair. They did the Corvair vans also.
Yeah, similar, very boxy.
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, they're cool vans. Amazing how many people comment about it. You park it outside work and people stop and go, "Oh, that's such a cool van." And I'm thinking, have you ever driven one? A stock one of those is not going to rock your world.
It doesn't have to. Some things can be cool just on their own merit.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Opposed piston engines have been around for over 100 years. I would say that would be exactly right. Yeah. But I mean, superchargers and turbochargers have been around for that kind of period of time as well.
For as long as it's really.
Yeah. So
there's
actually not a lot new out there.
Turbochargers go back to, I think, World War I. They started with that. Superchargers even earlier. I think that the supercharger goes back to like 1900s.
Do you two have any overlap? This is Brett McIntyre. Tony seems to do budget and make what you have work, and Kiwi is a resto modder. I think that's what the type. A little typo there. That's all right.
Well,
yeah, I guess yeah. I like to get a brand new engine. That's freshly built and making a known amount of horsepower and bolted in but then Tony's more mechanical than I am.
Yeah, we cover the opposite ends of the spectrum, you know what I mean? And then we kind of meet in the middle. We're both just gearheads. We both love cars. We love the machines and the stuff that goes on around them. But yeah, we're as opposite as can be as far as like what we do. But that's what makes a good friendship.
Yeah. I know. Tony laughs and smirks a bit at some of the things I do, and that goes both ways.
I laugh hysterically after I leave your place. I can ask Caddy. I double over in the car. I can't believe he's doing that. But
I mean, some of the stuff I do is certainly deemed by some as over the top. Some, but it's people like what they like. I look at some of these things that like. These really high-end builders like the Fooses and the Kindigit and those Dave Kindig, and their body working, they've got the car upside down and their body working the floor pan, taking any little nick, anything out of the floor pan, and then they roll it upright and then they really start working on the top.
I know. Wow. That's just overkill. Just see, I'm always of the opinion, or I come from the place of entropy. No matter what you do, the Earth is going to reclaim it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you could spend years and devote countless proportions of your life to making this perfect machine. But literally, from the minute it's finished, it's deteriorating, and the Earth is fighting to reclaim it.
Yeah.
So why go that far? Just go far enough that you enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And then it lasts a reasonable amount of time before it has to be redone, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then other people are just into the perfection. That's what they love. They love the perfection part of it. So
yeah. One thing I've kind of realised over the last probably 10 years being here in the States is like there's my Mustang, which is like kind of, it's not Foose level, but it's high end. There's a lot of nice stuff in it, and it's got a real flashy paint job and all that kind of stuff. And I've also got this little '63 Falcon convertible, which is a survivor car. It's original paint. It's not mint by any means. The back windows kind of start to come out of the convertible top a bit, and the top's all faded, and but you can tell like that it's just a good old honest car. And I've driven both of them around the place, similar areas around Nashville, and you definitely get more waves, more smiles, more people actually stopping you in the Falcon.
because it's more relatable.
Yeah, it's more relatable, and it puts more smiles on faces than my Mustang does, and that does make me wonder, or make me think. Maybe not wonder, but it makes me think. It's like there's two sides to the coin.
I like the history that comes with the patina of a car. Not fake patina. It has to be a real patina. See, like that's the problem, right? People go like, oh, I'll make it look rusty here. Come on. You know what I mean? If you're gonna do the bodywork and paint, do the bodywork and paint, and make it nice. But if the car has
that patina craze is kind of past.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. But that's not to say that a car that doesn't have honest patina.
Yeah, well, when I say that fake thing is past, it's the fake patina that's past, not that fad is faded.
We were at a Mopar show a couple of years ago. Yeah, Kathy and I were walking around. And, naturally, you're surrounded by all these beautiful, perfectly restored cars and top-of-the-line things. And there was a 70 Super B. It was an orange 383 4-speed Super B. And the paint was faded. It was blotchy. It had a couple of rust holes in the bottom of the quarters. Not where it was missing, but just a couple of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we both stopped and we both looked at the car. You know what I mean? And we both we looked at each other and was like, why is this thing so much more interesting than any other car? And that's what it is. It was interesting. It was an honest patina. It was a survivor. Those scars and those problems. Those little things that people cringe at. Well, they just showed that the car lived a life. It's been around, and it's but to each his own. Everybody's a little bit different with stuff like that. French Onion says the Supercharger started out as mine air pump roots blower. Yeah, in the 1860s.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes, I have read that somewhere. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, they were used for pumping air down into the mine.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was back in the 1860s. And then it was adopted. Actually, I believe that the first, and I know people are like, oh, screw blowers. That's not screw blowers, but screw type blowers. People think that is a new thing, but the roots blower evolved into the screw type blower in the 1800s for that purpose. And the first automotive applications for a supercharger were based on the screw style. Then it wasn't until post-war that the roots type of blower that we know, the 671, the 471, 671, 871, and there is no 871 in nature. But there's a 4 and there's a 6, but there's no 8 in nature. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. The difference between a 671 and an 871 is 9/100ths of an inch in the case. And it doesn't exist in nature. An 871 blower is specifically a aftermarket blower.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, there's 1071 as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and a 12.
Oh.
And a 14.
14? Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, that's all right. Oh, and okay. So Fubar just put up a link to. Oh wait, hang on. Eric Beal, thank you for the super chat. Wed, Bed, or Dead, Gen 2 Hemi BBC SBF. Yes. But Eric, my friend, I have no idea what you're asking or saying, or I don't know, maybe I had a stroke and that does make sense. I don't know.
Wed, Bed, or, Into Hemi.
Big block Chevy, small block Ford. The big block Chevy is the undisputed king of normally aspirated horsepower. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what stats you throw, what figures. The big block Chevy is the undisputed king of naturally aspirated horsepower. The Gen 2 Hemi is the undisputed king of blown nitro, right? And that's really the only place it excels.
The Gen 2 Hemi being the 60s.
Yeah, the 426.
Yeah.
And the small block Ford, people talk about the small block Chevy being the most versatile engine, or even the LS as being the most versatile engine. But the small block Ford, those little Windsors will fit anywhere. They make incredible power for their size. They're durable. They're tough. They're beautiful motors. So I think we covered that. I think.
Kiwi, which roller rocker shafts do you recommend for a 428 FE? You got me. I had a 427 rebuilt recently that had a bunch of broken roller rockers in it, and Shacklett's machine rebuilt that engine, and I know they put different rockers because the ones that were in it were no longer available. The guy had stopped making them, and it was quite a bit of work. They had to machine quite a bit of the head and do quite a lot of work to get these new roller rockers and shafts in. Which is absolutely no help to you, but maybe call Shacklett's in Nashville, and he can probably point you in the right direction, because he did tell me what he put in. We discussed it, but that's 8-9 months ago, and I cannot remember the brand. I'm sorry. Yeah.
The shafts themselves aren't known for failure, right? And there's no shortage of oil to the top end of those motors. I would think that any hard chrome shaft would probably be fine.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
So
I know it had a good old valve float, that engine, and it had several broken rockers, bent push rods, like nice looking billet rockers, and they were just in two pieces.
So Fubar put up the link to Kiwi's channel here.
Yep.
Right. It's a Kiwis Classic, and so yeah, go over there. If you haven't subscribed to Kiwi's channel, go do that now, and then come back. We'll wait for you. Let's wait for it.
Here you go. We will.
We need the think music from Jeopardy. So yeah, definitely go over there and sub to Kiwi's channel. And Fubar also put up the link to our merch. So you want one of our hats or shirts or any of the stuff that we got there, there's a link to the merch there also.
How do you get it? Oh, you hit that to make it scroll?
Yeah, just hit the bottom there.
There you go.
You work that thing like a boss.
What happened to the convertible Tony got running before going to Kiwis?
It's running. He's driving it around. He actually texted me the other day to tell me how thrilled he was with the thing, that I was right about not changing the motor in it.
Oh, is that what he'd been told to do?
Yeah, somebody was telling him, you got to put a big block in it. So he bought a 383 to put in it and all this other stuff. And I was like, you would be foolish to change this car in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, that's right. I remember now. It was a 318. It was just a 318. Wasn't it?
Yeah. But I got it running. I got it running good. And he was like, he texted me the other day just to say, you were so right. I love this car just the way it is. I'm not going to change it.
A lot to be said for keeping things stock.
Certain cars, yeah, man. Certain cars, you let the feature of the car be the thing. So when you got a beautiful old convertible like that, let that be the feature of the car. It doesn't matter what motor's on it.
How much, argue with don't. How much boost pressure on a stock barometer? Good question. I've been out of that Aussie engine loop for too long now, and I do not have an intelligent answer for you on that one. I know they're pumping a lot into them, but exactly what they do to make them live with that, I'm not sure. But I mean, Google it, YouTube it, which is a better search engine than Google anyway. And I'm pretty sure you'll find a wealth of information on YouTube about those Barrett engines. Because what you got to remember is the Aussies are crazy. They are a little bit crazy. And and they will just do stuff to basically stick it to the American V8s, just because they can. And good on them. That's that independent spirit.
They do a lot of really nutty things.
Yeah.
I never really understood the burnout culture.
Oh, that's big.
I know it's huge.
They build cars specially for doing burnouts. Like 3,000 horsepower nitrous engines or detune, nitrous engines. But they're doing 120 mile an hour on the spot. And just melting tires. Melting the rear quarters, shit's flying off the tires, and
they're nuts for
stuff's
that.
getting destroyed, and it's like they're just arms out the window, and they're just having the time of their life. Man.
I could see it being interesting once or twice, maybe even 3 times, and then after that, it's like, well, we'll just spin around in a circle some more.
You get all dizzy and have to stop and have a
yeah, I would have to. Yeah, I would get right.
Yeah.
Johnny Courageous. I think the small block Cleveland is better than the Windsor because the heads flow way better. You're right, and I don't know why the Cleveland didn't pop into my head. And for the record, it's been noted that inch for inch, that the 351 Cleveland, inch for inch, pound for pound, the 351 Cleveland will make more power normally aspirated than any other engine. The thing is size-wise now, because you can only go so big with the Cleveland Ford, but you can go way big with the big block Chevy. So I mean, essentially, Cleveland Ford is a big block Chevy with the distributor in a different place and everything being downsized.
They have found that the 2V heads actually flow better than the 4V heads.
Yeah.
The 4V heads, they just went too big in the ports. And bigger isn't better in a lot of things.
Velocity.
A whole lot of things. But, yeah, you go too big and, you're talking about needing to pull 8,000 RPMs to start getting that airspeed where it needs to be. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Cleveland engine. Someone just scrolled up, I missed it, but someone was talking about the Cleveland engine. I bought a Mustang years ago, and we put a 408 Cleveland in that, and that thing rocked, man. That thing was fast.
Oh, I get it now. Eric Beal, thank you for the super chat again, brother. All right, that thing about the 3 different engines. Marry one night stand, or marry one is wed. Yeah. One night stand is bed, and dead you have to kill one. Wed, bed, or dead. Okay.
Well, what were the 3 choices again?
The big block, the big block Chevy, the 426 Hemi, or the Windsor Ford. Okay, so
that's tough. I don't know that I want to kill any of those.
See, my answer is like the exact opposite of what people would expect from me, because I would marry the small block Ford.
The small block Ford?
Yeah. Well, out of those 3 choices.
Right. Well, as opposed to the 426 Hemi.
That's the one I would kill.
Huh.
Because the engine is only good for one thing.
Okay.
Think about it. It's extinct all over the world except in blown fuel racing. You know what I'm saying? It's been outdated. It's been for years, for generations. Everything has surpassed it. So the versatility of the small block Ford, that's the one I would marry.
See, I'd go with the one night stand for the 426.
They're the one
because it might be a short ride, but it'd be a hell of a ride.
Well, yes.
And that's what the one night stand's all about, man.
No, this is true.
Do you remember those days?
No, how can I forget?
Old age.
So yeah, that's my answer is the exact opposite of what people would expect me to say. But yeah, for me it would be the Ford, the Chevy, and then kill the Chrysler.
Yeah, I'll just reverse on the Chevy and the Chrysler. Johnny Courageous, I thought the Cleveland blocks had more nickel.
Well, that just depends on the foundry.
Yeah.
It depends on who was mixing the vat that day. Honestly, that's really what it comes down to. Like the nickel content of your block was like is like dictated by how much of each container Lucille has at her disposal when she's working at the foundry. And honestly, it's mostly hit and miss. Logan Burnett, Chevy 54 big block, 750 CFM Holly, You need much more carburetor than that. Mild cam, 5-speed Tremec, and headers. What type of exhaust do you recommend? X or H pipe, or just straight duals? H pipe.
I'd say X pipe.
See, we agree. H pipe. Why? Because even though the X pipe might be slightly better in certain circumstances, it sounds like shit. I hate the sound of an X pipe exhaust.
Seriously, our show should be called The Odd Couple.
How's that?
I love the sound of the X pipe.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're wrong.
Oh my god. I think I've got a second wife.
But you like the H pipe.
No, not really.
But you just said H
No,
pipe.
I said X pipe. I like the X pipe.
Oh, I thought you agreed with me.
No,
I said, oh, this guy's
that's what I said.
smart.
I like the Odd Couple. It was like
Oh, I hate the sound of X pipe. I just got rid of my 67 Dart that I had.
Right.
I could not tolerate the friggin' exhaust. That X pipe going down the road. Oh my god, it was horrible.
No.
So yeah.
750 CFM carb. I think that's enough.
For idling. I mean, yeah, if you want to idle, that's just awesome.
It's been my experience that, and we're talking kind of averages here,
right,
that people overcarburate.
Oh, it depends what you're doing there.
It doesn't mean there's a lot of in that statement. There's an awful lot of variables. Like if you're trying to really rev the tits off it.
Well, okay.
You need some carburetor. For that mid-range throttle response.
Yes, you're right.
When you're doing 40 mile an hour and you want to just squirt off, that smaller carburetor will make it happen.
He's right.
Better.
He's right. Like, by the way, I have an 850 on the 318.
Right.
And it's miserable, like at just low speeds and everything, as you'd expect it to be. But you see the way it runs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
I don't have a car that will lift the front wheel.
That's right, you don't. Mr. X-type lover.
Oh, so I just need to put an X pipe on and then I'll lift the front wheel of the Mustang?
Well, you guys leave the exhaust all the way off. Oh, my God. Bill McKaiska, thank you for the super chat, my brother. Stay stock, stay happy is what I've always been told. Hence why I love the UTG idea of making factory junk parts work. It's the most fun way to do it. Honestly, there's something rewarding about it. There's one thing rewarding. Okay, yeah, well, I bought this thing, I took it out of the box, and I bolted it on the car. It's a quick dopamine rush. But it's a whole different thing when you actually take a head, right, and you grind on it, and you modify whatever it is that you're doing. That whole, whether it's a carburetor, an intake manifold, a distributor, when you're working on the thing yourself and you're making the modifications, and you can see that directly what you're like the changes that your ideas and what your hands affected is a totally different thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. I mean that's the reward of doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
Glenn Nickerson, interesting. UT seemed like a loaded question, like my small block Fords never let me down. Yeah, I got to say I'd like that engine.
Eric Beal, Wed Bed Dead, Magnum 500, Craig. Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
Wed Bed Dead, Magnum 5, same thing, right?
Mm.
One you're going to keep, the one that you're going to just have a quickie with, and the one you're going to kill. Magnum 500, Krager Classic, Steely. Wed the Steely.
I did the Steely.
Yeah.
Magnum.
Yeah. Wed the Steely, bed the Magnum 500, kill the Krager Classic. Is that about right?
No. I'd kill the Steely. I'm not a fan of those.
See, you're so wrong about so many things. I don't know, but listen.
Steve Ledane, Ford, Chevy, and Mopar. How about some Oldsmobile love? Well, there you go. Now, this gentleman, he's kind of trying to sneak in under the radar. This Stephen Ledane. He's the guy that's working for me part time now.
Oh, is he?
And he has got the sweetest '63 Oldsmobile 98. We're going to do a video on it, and you would love it. It's patina to heck, and it's like genuine. It's the real deal patina.
Okay, I'm looking forward to meeting you, Steve.
And it's got a 394 in it with some weird old transmission that Oldsmobile borrowed from somewhere. That's apparently very fragile, and it's just. But we've been out cruising in it a few times, and like it's just cool. It's really cool, and it's huge.
Nice.
Like you get it parked by my truck today, and I've got like the long wheelbase mega cab Dodge Ram truck, which is huge, and it's almost as long. It's like, good grief, this thing is huge.
Here's one for you, bro.
We wave at him, or we cruising it, and like I'm way over here, and he's over there. We're like, hey.
And that's as it should be.
Well, yeah.
One. What's the best rust inhibitor on not so bare metal?
There's a product called made by Worth, like WURTH, and they have a cavity wax. They have what's called a cavity wax.
Cavity wax.
Yeah, well, you spray it into the cavities of the car.
Okay.
And it's not cheap, but it's very effective.
Cavity wax.
Cavity wax.
Okay.
And it sprays out like a clear, semi-clear, waxy kind of material.
Interesting.
Like an undercoat, but it's kind of waxier, and it creeps. So it creeps into the seams and joins and stuff like that.
Nice.
And
I never knew such a thing existed.
Yeah.
And who makes it?
Worth. Yeah, WURTH. I think it's a German company. And they do a lot of automotive products, a lot of consumable type automotive products, not pistons and rings. But yeah, their stuff, it's a little high end on the price, but you really do get what you pay for.
Gary, though, about the cosmoline, is it related to cosmoline?
Yeah, similar kind of recipe to it, or theory to it. Cosmoline is a creeping rust inhibitor. Thing with what you don't want to do is try and seal it up with like something that's going to set hard. Once it sets hard, cars flex and then they'll crack, and then the moisture gets in in the gap in your rust inhibitor, and that's not what you're trying to do. Let's have a look at that one. Is it Cape Cod Vintage Revival? My Ford 268 has developed low to no oiling on several rockers on the passenger side. Is there damage or just crud in the system? Still at 55 pounds oil pressure. My little old Falcon that I mentioned earlier, the little convertible, that's got a 260 in it. And that just has that's why I kind of drew me to it. That has a low oil pressure at idle.
Okay.
And noisy valve train.
Well, he's got 55 pounds.
Yeah, he's got 50. So you have a different problem to me. I say that the 260 Ford V8, like what pulled me to that comment. I'd say there's probably not damage. I would say there's crud in the system.
Crud.
Yeah,
that's about the only thing that will give you that.
Years and years ago, like I was about 18, so this is how long ago it was. I had a 63 Dodge with the 318, the big wide block one, the Poly V8, and that used to smoke something shocking if you idled the lights for 3 or 4 minutes. You'd take off and it'd just be a cloud of smoke behind you. Out of one bank, one side, it was the right hand side, and so one Saturday morning I decided to dive into it and try and figure out what was going on, and my 18-year-old bumbling through, not really know what I was doing. Pulled the valve cover off, and like a quart of oil fell on the ground.
Fords were always known for that. I don't know why exactly, but Fords always had that deal where they just, the gack would just pile up under the valve cover.
But this old Poly, both the drain holes, a drain hole at each end of the cylinder head, they were blocked solid, like nothing. So any oil that went up into the valve train, the only way they got to get rid of it was getting burnt. And cleared those holes, and it was like I'd rebuilt the engine. I thought it was Christmas. Because it was really hard as an 18-year-old, like trying to be cool, cruising, and you'd sit there idling, and a few of the girls would be looking, going, "That's a nice car," and then you drive off, and there's like the locomotive left. It's like, well, there's the street cred just gone right out the window.
So I don't recall Polys ever getting clogged up like that. But
yeah, this was a Poly.
Yeah.
And it was.
I just whenever I picture Oldsmobiles and Ford motors, were always you pull the valve cover off, and there'd be like a Jello mold of the valve cover made out of oil.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Here we go. Hi guys, fellow New Zealander here. Have a 4-door 68 Dart with a tired, I assume 273. Do I recondition the engine or upgrade to a 318 or 340? Would love a sleeper type car. Well, me, I'm all about displacement, so probably upgrade to a 340. But that 273 is a bit of a sleeper engine, isn't it?
Well, if you're looking for a sleeper, you're gonna have a hard time getting that out of a 273. I mean, honestly, they run good.
Right.
They run good, but hardly a sleeper.
Right.
You know, the last one I had ran 1530s.
Right.
That the 67 GT that I had. You drove that car, right?
No, I didn't drive it. No.
No. It ran like 1530s, but it was hardly a sleeper, and it looked and sounded a lot faster than it actually was. Because I mean, yeah, you know, displacement, there is something to it, to a point, right? I would definitely go with either a 318 or a 340 or a 360. Throw a 360 in it. Really, a box stock 360 is going to give you the same performance as a worked 273. If you're looking for the sleeper effect.
I built a car a bunch of years back, 73 Challenger, which was a 340 car. And that guy had that motor bought and stroked out to 408. I think it was a 406.
Yeah, 4-inch stroker.
Yeah. That thing hauled the mail, man.
Yeah.
That thing, it was like, it scared the owner.
Let's see. 55 Hemi Dodge. Right at this moment, I'm going through the carburetor off my 62 Dodge Lancer Slant 6. The problem I'm having is it's always running rich. The carburetor is a Carter BBD from a 318.
Isn't that why?
No, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't?
I mean, a regular, a standard BBD on like a Super 6 intake on your 62 Lancer, I don't really see that as it's not calibrated. It's not going to be calibrated to be that rich. There's going to be something else. There's going to be something else because you should be able to lean it down just through the mixture screws to make that engine more than happy. Because God knows, I mean, 1,000 people have done it, 10,000 people have done it over the years, and it's a good combination. Actually, that's what Chrysler did when they put the Super 6. That's what they used. They used a BBD off of a 318, and they just stuck it on the Slant 6. The only change they made to the carburetor was they made a modification to the choke linkage because the choke comes from the choke rod comes from a different angle. But the people have been using BBD carburetors on Slant 6s forever, so I think your problem might be someplace else or a unique problem to that carburetor.
There you
go. Hey, well, that's just what I'm saying.
Who knew?
Okay.
We've got another weird bed or dead one.
Oh.
400 Ford would have to be dead.
Oh, definitely wed the 400 Mopar, bed the 400 Poncho, and kill the 400 Ford.
We agree.
Yeah, we agree. You see, we can come together at times.
That's a good question. Any chance it's a 383 BBD?
They look completely different.
Okay.
Ari, the footprint on the 383 carburetor is the same as the 360, the 383, and the 400. The 361 also all use that larger footprint that wouldn't bolt on a factory Super 6 intake. So you got the small footprint that's the same as a Stromberg that they use on the 273s and the 318s, and then you have the larger one that they use on the 360s, 361, 383, and 400. Let's see. Gypsy J Rides. All right, Tony, let's hear about your drag and drive project. As soon as he starts working on it, I'll tell you.
Who? Me? What?
Weren't you supposed to finance and build our drag and drive project?
I didn't get that memo, no.
Oh, geez.
No.
We'll have to have a discussion about this after.
Off air. Yeah. All right. Moving right along.
CW, I'm a Ford. Yeah, but the 400M was horrible. It was a wheezing, just travesty of an engine. It's like It's hard for me to find an engine that I dislike. You know what I'm saying? It really is, because I loved engines in general. So it's hard for me to find one that I genuinely dislike. And Ford had a few of them in that range. It was just like that. This
It
is
was
bad.
really not that I know much about smog engines because we didn't really go through that in New Zealand, but that was something of a smog engine, that 400, wasn't it?
It was from the dark days of the Malaise era. You know, yeah.
Because the 400 small block Chevy was like that a bit too, wasn't it? That was like an oversized, underpowered small block Chevy.
Well, that was what it was. At that period of time, they had to drop compression ratios and retard cam timing, retard ignition timing. So they sort of made up for it by increasing cubic inches. That's why Chrysler went from the 383 to the 400. That extra 17 cubic inches was supposed to make up for the difference, the loss in compression.
Right.
But there were some of them that were just horrible, and the 400 Ford was one of them.
He's doing some oiling mods on a 490M at work. A 490M? Is that like a Ford and stroked for something? Haven't heard of a 490M.
400M. No, he
400M. Okay.
Craig Chido, if the 400M was put together properly, it could be nasty. Well, nasty is relative, but in stock form. Look, any engine, just like the 400 Chrysler, the 400, I mean, you go all the way back to the 80s, right? And people would just laugh at the 400 because it was still used basically in stock form, and it had the reputation of the stock form engine. People didn't realize it. It is the superior big block Chrysler. It's got the biggest bore, and it's got the best geometry out of all of the big block Chryslers. So now, years later, decades later, the engines are appreciated for their basic architecture. But back in the day, they were a joke, and it's the same thing with the 400. Yeah, you can build it into anything you want, but in its original form, it was a joke.
Here's super chat.
That's for you.
I'm guessing.
Did you always do such?
Aimed at me.
Did you ever? You got to read the question.
Yeah.
Did you always do such meticulous work, or back in the day, did you ever patch with a Foster's cam?
I can honestly say I've never patched with a Foster's cam. May or may not have done it with a DB cam, but not a Foster's. No, look, any body guy's done that, where you just use what you got on hand to fill a hole and mud it up and slap it together and send it down the road. That's, I'm not proud of that, but hey, like it happened. I did it. But sometimes that's what, and I wasn't building hot rods then. This was working in a body shop that did work for used car dealers, and it was get it in, get it out as quickly and cheaply as possible. So that's where the whole putting license tags in, to patch up a hole, or chicken wire, or whatever. Tinfoil and race tape was a good one. Yeah.
I can only remember maybe 5 or 6 times in my whole life that I've puked. Because I'm not a puker.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're not a drinker either, though, are you?
I'm not. No, well, not really.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I was like maybe 14 or 15 years old. I ended up at some party, okay, where they had Fosters, and I remember it was just these big oil cans, right? And as any teenager would do, I just guzzled as much of it as I possibly could, and I was sicker than I've ever been sick since before or after.
Oh, they were the good old days, weren't they?
Fosters, yeah. And I've just always associated Fosters with projectile vomiting. Now it may, that's just me. That's my own association. I'm not saying bad things about Fosters, so don't get me wrong, right? I'm sure
you just lost 1,000 subscribers from Australia. It just popped up in the corner here on the screen.
That's why I'm saying I'm not saying that Fosters will make you sick. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that my own personal experience with Fosters, I automatically associate Fosters with projectile vomiting. Just saying.
Yeah. Now, somebody mentioned the Valiant 6 cylinders. Where's it gone? And asking if I'd driven one of the old Valiants with the 6-cylinder Hemi in it. Yes, I have. I was lucky enough to drive a Valiant Hemi Pacer. which is a Valiant that you've never had the body shape here. It was just a purely Australian thing.
Yeah, we
I
had
think
the
it was
AMC Pacer.
VH. I might be wrong on that. VH type body shape. Yeah, you did have that AMC Pacer, but no, this was a Valiant Pacer that they made, and it was a 4-door sedan. They made the Charger. They made the Valiant Charger, which was a 2-door hardtop. Right. They made a Valiant Pacer, which was the 4-door sedan version.
Okay.
But it was kind of hot rodded sedan a little bit.
Didn't you do a video on one of those?
Yeah. The one when I was back in New Zealand.
I saw that.
But that was the regular Valiant. There was a regular 6.
I like that car. That was sweet.
Yeah, it was cool. They're cool cars. It's just worth a ton of money now. You used to be able to give them away.
That was sweet.
But yeah, they made one with the 265 and tweaked up a little bit, factory headers and stuff like that, if I remember rightly. And then the Chargers, they had an E38 and an E49 Charger, and that had triple Weber side drafts on it. And that was a beast. They built that for Bathurst for like the Australian touring cars, and that would whip the 351s. 265 cubic inch 6, and it would whip them's probably a little strong.
I need to eventually get my hands on one of those.
It would hang with the 351s and give them a run for their money.
I need to get my hands on one of those engines eventually. You're gonna have to put some connections together with your overseas guys.
It's quite doable, but it's going to cost.
Well, let's see what we can do.
You can't pick one up like you can pick up a Slant 6.
Right.
Like they're just too desirable now because they've been out of production for a long time. But an E49 Charger, that's 6-figure car all day long over in Aussie. and I'm sure don't roast me, Aussie guys, because I'm not up with the pricing, but I know they're worth a lot of money.
SW Resto, Reed Foster's been there, done that, Tony. Yep. See, I'm not the only one.
Does Kiwi sell those nice chassis stiffening brackets he builds for the A-body? You're not the first person to ask that. Yeah. There's probably a market there to do that, to make them, like semi-mass produce them or whatever, but I'm just so slammed already, to be a nice little money sideline, to be honest. But there's just X amount of hours in the day, and that's it. Now those stiffening brackets that I put in, you guys pretty much watch me make them. It was just a 3x1 box tube, and it's just a bit of trimming and filing and grinding to make them fit and weld them in. Most of you guys can do that. If you've got a MIG welder, not a flux core welder, but a proper MIG welder.
You're always taking pokes at Fluxy. All my shit is held together with Fluxy.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why you get to lift the front wheel, because you're using a flux core welder.
That's one of my speed secrets.
Right, there you go.
It doesn't lift just the left front. It lifts them both.
It lifts them both? I only saw it from one side.
Right, because you only see it from one side.
Yeah. It actually pulled both front wheels?
Yeah, one more than the other.
Right.
And I get the double wheelie. So I get the wheelie, and then the double wheelie.
Double wheelie. Yeah. Where was it? Yeah. Have a crack at making those brackets yourself, guys, honestly. I know I would do it, but I just don't have time.
Opinion on round chambered mufflers. Do you have an opinion on that?
Round chambered mufflers, as in like a round barrel as opposed to an oval barrel, or
I don't know.
I'm not quite sure what I'm being.
I remember this. I remember the chambered pipe exhausts that there was an option on the Z28s. I guess it was 69, 68, 69. They had a chambered exhaust that I haven't heard one since I was a kid, but I remember them, and it was a very distinct sound. They sounded vicious. Okay. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
It was an option. Like they had a lot of obscure options on those E28 cars. They had the cross ram. They had the 4-wheel disc brake or big disc brake. I'm converting that car to drums.
From disc to drums?
Yeah, there's all the disc brake stuff I took off it. I picked up 11-inch drums for it to match the back.
Okay.
It was more surface area. So, anyway, they had a lot of obscure options on those cars. They had the rear disc brakes, they had the cross ram, and they had this chambered exhaust. And the chambered exhaust just sounded insane. It was probably the best sounding muscle car exhaust.
Didn't see a lot of those in New Zealand, unfortunately.
Let's see. Joe K, like a glass pack shape with pinched sections. Yeah.
Glenn Nickerson, $10 a gallon for Bondo. Yeah, that was a little while ago, wasn't it? It's freaking $50 a can now.
Dude, I bought a tube of that halftime. You know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
It's like a finishing. It's a higher level of just Bondo.
Right.
Right. It's $35 for a little tube.
What the hell are you using that on?
On that. This stuff.
Not sure that he's quite ready for finishing Bondo, but hey.
It sands easier. It goes on very smooth and it sands really easy.
Yeah.
But it was $35 for the tube.
1.5 pints. 1.5 pints. Yeah. It's nice stuff, but it's expensive. But you typically you do your majority of your rough-in work with regular Bondo,
and then finish it with that, right?
Finishing with that. I personally don't use that. We kind of get it close with regular Bondo, a good quality one, and then high build prime it with a polyester primer.
Well, it's because you're a professional, and I'm a hack, literally, just trying to get by. You know what you're doing. Excuse me.
Called a glass pack muffler. That's okay. Fiberglass Evercoat Rage we sell for over 100. Good Lord. Oh, well, that's like the short strand, the fiberglass Evercoat. That's the short or the long strand. That shit's expensive, yeah. But there's only certain applications for that. That long strand fiberglass I use over any, when you put a quarter on and there's body joins that you have to fill. We'll use that long strand Evercoat stuff for that because it's strong. It doesn't move. But yeah, you don't use a lot of it, which is good because it is so expensive. Kiwi over 308 Holden V8 that is 60 thou over. Can I clean up the balls somehow without hitting water jackets? Thoughts on sleeves? Okay. Clean up the bores. I mean, it's already 60 thou over, which is, depending on the block. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're going to have to do is, if you need to bore it again, you're going to have to sonic test it. And that is where it measures the thickness of the walls. Because even sleeve, you just put a thin sleeve in there, and the sleeve on its own is not strong enough. It relies on what it's pushed into. If that wall's thin, then you've got a sleeve and a super thin wall. It's not going to be strong enough.
I'm sick. I'm just getting over it. I'm trying not to get him sick. The 60 over is like the industry standard for overbore, right? So all of the common engines that we deal with are all designed from the factory to go a maximum of 60 overbore. And if you ever look at like Felpro gaskets, they're one size fits all. They're always to the largest size. They'll always be to the 60 over size. So if you take like a Felpro head gasket and you lay it over an engine, you'll always see that there's more. It's overlap.
Yeah, it's large. The hole in the gasket's larger than the hole in the deck. Yeah,
because the standard factory overbore would be 60. But yeah, once you go past that, you definitely got to do sonic testing. But that's besides the point. I wouldn't even worry so much about that. You got to remember that on a conventional engine, standard cast iron or aluminum block even, that the deck and the bottom end of the engine are only held in place by the cylinders themselves. So when you start taking metal off the cylinders, you're actually weakening the overall block structure, the ability for the deck to stay level and for the crank for the main saddles to stay in line. Because it's that metal that's the cylinder walls that's holding it all together. So the more you take off of that, the more flexible it becomes, and the less tolerant the engine is going to be towards to things like detonation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the bores actually spread.
Right.
And when you hit your power stroke, they'll actually spread,
Yep.
and then you lose compression past the ring. So yeah, and it depends. I'm not familiar enough with the 308s to know whether they were prone to core shift. That's usually what dictates how far you can bore them, is how much core shift they tended to suffer from. Because you might bore at 80 over and you've got 180 thou left on one side, and you're down to 40 thou on the other side. Well, that's not going to live. But if you've got if whoever was casting the 308s was doing a good job and they didn't get core shift, then you're better off. But yeah, sonic testing will tell the story, and obviously you got to have your engine completely apart, and there's a cost involved in that. But it's cheap insurance. Like it will tell you whether you can sleeve it, whether whether you can't, or whether you just need to find another block. Like we used to race little Nissans. And when we needed a new engine, it would generally take us about 3 blocks to find a good core that was boreable. Yeah, you just like sonic test it. Nah. And yeah, three to four engines you'd go through before you found one that hadn't shifted and was going to be, because we were pushing it to the limit, obviously. It was a race engine.
Right.
But yeah, the sonic testing tells the story.
I try to avoid boring an engine at all costs. I'll overlook a lot of like cylinder wall imperfections. People will be like, "Oh, you got to bore that. You got to bore that out." No, it'll fill with oil. When the engine is running, that little nick there is going to fill with oil, and the ring will go right past it, and it'll be fine. But I go out of my way to avoid overboring any engine that I'm dealing with, because I understand the importance of the structural rigidity of the cylinder walls themselves.
Yeah. Oh, you're answering this question of Nate's?
No,
what
what
you're
was
referring
this?
to? Oh, it's a 5-litre Ford block with almost nowhere, one vertical score and one cylinder. Could a guy get away?
If it's just
with a hone and no
score,
overboard?
How deep of a score is too much? Can you catch your fingernail in it? Can you catch your fingernail in it? A vertical score is see, okay, a horizontal score, something that's just like a nick that goes around this way. That's nothing. I mean, literally, the piston's whipping past that so fast. There's no chance of compression, an effective compression loss or oil transfer through a vertical slot like that. A horizontal one is different, because a horizontal one is like a trough that leads from the compression area to the oil area. So at that point, you say to yourself, well, can I actually feel it? Can I catch my fingernail in it?
Will the ring catch in it?
Well, the ring won't catch in it if it's going this way. You think about it. The ring's like this.
Yeah. Are you talking about a vertical score?
Yeah, vertical score.
Oh, sorry, I'm with you. Yeah, but like a horizontal score, that's.
Well, it depends how far around it goes. If it only goes maybe a quarter of the way around the bore to a third of the way around the bore, I wouldn't worry about the ring.
Yeah.
But if it's any more than that, yeah, the ring could definitely catch it. Yeah. But the horizontal bore, man, I would say if you could actually feel it, then you probably end up you want to bore it.
It's amazing what you can get away with. Like the high end race engine builders are, they're like, it's like a surgery in their engine assembly rooms. It's like that clean,
right?
And they're so precise, and they've got every kind of measuring device, and a mate of mine back in New Zealand had a couple of old Nissan 6-cylinder diesel engines that he got, and he was putting his diesel engine in a boat, and he was like, he did everything himself. Like he couldn't bring himself to take something somewhere and get it done. He did everything himself, and he pulled this engine apart. He picked the best kind of 6 cylinders out of the pistons and rods out of the 12 that he had from the 2 6-cylinders. Picked the best set of rings off them. He pulled all the rings off all the pistons, cleaned them all up, put the used rings back on, the best, what he saw as the best set of rings, out of the 12
They're
sets.
experienced.
They're experienced. Put it together, and I'm like, Daniel, you can't. Don't, like, this is a boat engine. Like, you need it to keep going. Because you go out in a boat in New Zealand, you're off the coast. You're in the Pacific Ocean. You're not puttering around a lake. But no, he was fine, and he put it back together, and pretty sure he used a second-hand head gasket on it. Because it just
Well,
had no budget.
that's going there. I mean, I have reused rings. I've reused bearings.
And this thing ran like a top. Like it ran just great, and he honed it basically with a Scotch-Brite pack down the board.
He took his time and he was careful. And
it cost him nothing, like nothing. And he had quite a decent running little 6-cylinder diesel motor for his boat. And I'm like, if you'd taken that to a diesel shop, it would have been like, that'll be 6,000, thank you. So, I don't know. What else?
Made muscle. When I worked at Dart, I learned an extremely valuable lesson. Big block Chevy OEM block lifter bores are absolutely trash, dimensionally 8 times out of 10. A lot of horsepower and reliability when correcting it. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Now, why is that? Why the big block Chevy in particular with bad lifter bores or sloppy lifter bores?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Well, I'm asking.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good one to know if you've got any input on that. Matt Jones, best motor ever made in America.
Best motor ever made in America. Best motor ever. Okay, what's the criteria? Like, what are we basing?
Yeah, what defines best?
Right.
The best economy, the best reliability, the best horsepower, all of the above.
Yeah, you really need a category. You know what I mean? You really need a category. But if it's going to be a broad category, like so it's a broad question. So it's an open like broad category, which would be, what's the most versatile engine, right? What is going to? It's hard to argue with the LS. It's hard to argue with the LS.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair comment. The LS is a stellar motor,
and it'll fit anywhere.
You know it's compact.
It's right.
The Coyote's a neat motor, but it's very revvy, very peaky, and it's huge. It's just huge, especially when it's only 5 litre. Chris Cadman, do Kiwi smokes burn backwards?
What's that? Do Kiwi smokes burn backwards?
It depends. If you put them in your mouth butt first, probably, yeah.
Oh, because everything is upside down. I know.
Ass backwards, bass backwards. I don't know. I've never smoked a day in my life, and I really relish these evenings with Tony sitting here smoking.
Yeah, well, I mean, you really should start. It's never too late to start.
Oh, God.
You know?
No, I'd rather have a Foster's.
You don't know what you're missing.
I'd rather have a Foster's, I'm telling
you. Let's see. Agree with
300 Ford 4-litre Jeep SBC. We started something now with this. Or that other guy did who actually started.
Oh, what was it now?
Wed, Bed or Dead.
Okay.
300 Ford 4-litre Jeep small block Chev.
Oh.
Well, I would marry and one night stand in the small block Chev. And did the Jeep and the 300 Ford. Well, yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'd marry the small block Chevy, have a quickie with the 4-litre Jeep, and kill the 300 Ford. Not that I have anything against 300 Fords, but these are the only choices.
Well, yeah. I'm struggling to figure out data logging for stock LS computers. That's not HP tuners. Data logging on a stock LS computer. I'd struggle with that too. I'd venture to say that it couldn't be done. What wheel sizes and tyres are on Plan Z?
I don't know, 15-inch, 8-inch, they're 8-inch slicks. What are they, 26? 8 by 26s.
What the final rubber on the road ratio is? What's the rubber on the road ratio?
Rubber on the road ratio. What the hell is that?
I'm wondering if he's meaning like the final drive ratio, the diameter of the tyre versus the ring and pinion, and by the final drive ratio in your transmission. I'm guessing that's what he means. 68 Plymouth axle adit. 68 Plymouth Sport Fury 4-barrel, 383 board over 40, 727 trans, 323 in the rear. Should I upgrade the rear or leave it be? And there are any heads which will flow better I can go with?
Well, I mean, the rear end, it just depends what you're using it for. If it's a mixed use car, just something you're going to cruise or take to the track occasionally or use it as a commuter, then the 323 is probably the best gear you're going to have in that car. Heads.
There's always a better head you can buy.
Yeah, but again, you see, it depends what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
It's obviously not an all-out performance build because it's a 68 Plymouth Fury for open. It's a heavy car. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to go out and be a street outlaw with this thing, right? So I would say that what you've got there, just tuned correctly, is going to be a nice, flexible driver type of muscle car. You can have fun with it. I wouldn't worry about flowing heads right now with that. What'd you do? You broke it.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I got rid of it. It's back.
No, look, you keep.
I don't know what that is.
Just do that.
Just do that? Okay.
Boom. Okay.
Ford Godzilla motor. Yeah. Hook, line, and fishing. That is a beast. Although I have heard that they're having trouble with the Godzilla motor at around the mid 25,000 miles with the lifter bores.
Really?
Yeah.
What's going on with them?
They're like seizing lifters in the bores.
Really?
Yeah. I've heard. This is not a fact. You didn't hear it first here, but that's what an engine guy that I know was telling me just the other day that apparently Ford is having an issue, and it's like between 20 and 30,000 miles.
I gotta look into that.
Yeah.
Did you see this guy? This is a story I've been kind of following for the last couple of weeks. This guy that bought a Challenger, right? Jailbreak. And the thing had 800 miles on it. Right?
Mm.
800 miles. So it starts running like shit. He brings it into the dealer. The dealer does a compression test. Okay? It's down one cylinder. The number 7 cylinder's got 0 compression.
Oops.
Okay. They void the warranty on him because he did a muffler. Okay, the story first is that they void the warranty on him because it had a muffler delete, a mid-muffler delete. It says, okay, you modified the car, there's no warranty, right? But that's reaching. Well, it turns out he had the thing tuned also.
Oh, yeah, well then.
Well,
yeah.
now everything's out. So, okay, so this engine's got 800 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing wrong with it is that it's got one cylinder with 0 compression. So it's either got a broken ring, it's got a busted piston itself, or the rings are the ring rings are crushed. How much to fix that?
Quite a lot.
Take a stab in the dark.
15,000?
Keep going.
Jeez, really?
Not even close.
Really? Well, you can buy a crate motor for 30.
You buy a crate motor for 18.
18 now. Okay.
Yeah.
They started out at around 30. That's the Hellcat, the supercharged motor we're talking about.
Yeah, they're like $18,000.
Oh, wow. And they wanted more than that to fix it?
$36,000. Chrysler wants.
So you could buy 2 crate motors for the cost of getting your one fixed.
Well, essentially, they're charging you $18,000 for the engine and an $18,000 to swap it. How many engine swaps would you do for $18,000?
Well, 1.5 easy, yeah.
1.5 easy, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. In saying that, a couple of guys, I put a little thing up the 2 nights ago about doing this live, and I put a photo with it, and a few people picked up on the photo, and I'll quickly try if I can find it, see if Tony recognizes it. And a couple of people asked for it, and they, what is that motor? And it's like, there you go.
For 600.
Okay, so for those that were asking, it's a John Cossey Boss 600, which is basically a copy of a Boss 429.
Upscaled, yeah.
Yeah, but it's punched out to 600 cubic inches. That arrived in the shop beginning of the week.
Oh, you've got that at your shop?
That's at the shop.
Oh, why didn't you tell me when they came in?
You haven't been in this week.
I haven't been by there, but you could have said, hey.
Well, it's still there. Come and have a look.
Well, I'm going to come by tomorrow. I got to see that.
It's awesome. It's gigantic. It's absolutely huge, physically huge. It's got a 10-quart oil pan on it.
How much physically bigger is it than the stock motor?
It's possibly a little wider because of the taller deck. It's got a taller deck, which is going to push the heads out wider. I don't have an actual answer for that on how much physically bigger it is than the original 429. I don't know whether this will work. Can you do that?
Yeah. Oh, no.
It's not much of a picture, but yeah, but that's got stack injection on it. It's got a fancy serpentine front drive on it. All that stuff. Guess how much that engine was?
60.
868 horse dyno.
Okay.
Crank. $43,000.
That's a lot of money for that kind of horsepower, because there are guys that make that power with a junkyard LS and a
hairdryer.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Teriyaki Tornado and
Teriyaki Tornado. That's good.
So you have to put all of that in perspective,
Yeah.
because there's people out there that laugh at,
but
that kind
it's
of power level.
Just a piece of jewelry.
But that's what it is. It's
we're gonna
jewelry.
sit there and have lunch and just sit close to it and watch. And
now,
just
how
look
come
at
you don't have my picture on your phone?
I got my mother on my phone. She's just a lot prettier than you.
She's a
Bless
beautiful
her
woman.
soul.
She is.
Yeah.
She looks happy.
Yeah, she was there.
What's that?
She was there.
But
yeah, no, no, you don't get to be on my phone. You got to pay me a lot more before that happens.
We're over 2 hours.
Shit, really? 2 hours? Wow.
We're over 2 hours.
Time flies when you're talking shit.
It certainly does. We're going to do this. I think we're going to do this. You want to do this on like a regular?
Yeah, sure.
You're good with that, right?
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you all for joining us.
Yes.
Make sure on your way out, you go subscribe to Kiwi's channel.
That would be nice.
Yeah, you got both ends of the spectrum. You've got like a cardboard box living degenerate like me, and you've got this high-end guy with, good stuff, nice stuff. Like we cover both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, we got you covered.
Yeah, so go over there and sub to his deal. I'm going to come by your shop tomorrow because I got to see that thing. That's a cool motor.
Yeah, it's a cool motor. It's awesome to look at.
So Fubar just put up the link to Kiwi's channel.
Yep.
So yes, definitely go over there and do that. Fubar, Ari, Zero, guys, thank you so much. Our regular mods, they're always with us.
Now, guys, I know we missed a lot of questions. This little, we're reading the text that's rolling up on the screen here, and we missed some of you guys. Apologize for that. It just keeps on rolling, and there's a lot of questions, and we do our best to answer as much as we can. It's not that we're ignoring you, but
I'm ignoring some of them. Some of them I'm just like, go away.
Well, I'm trying to be polite. I'm trying to be polite. But ask again, guys. Again, my apologies if we missed you. It's not intentional. I love hearing from my New Zealand and Aussie subscribers. And
look, AR Valaria Don Jr. says it was worthless info.
But did you laugh? That's the thing. That's the key thing. Did you find any humor in it? Because if we made you laugh, then we've done a good thing.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, guys. There are people laughing at me all the time. That's the thing. You start doing YouTube. It's like they just.
The idea is they're meant to laugh with you, not at you.
You know what? You just accept it, however it comes. You know what I mean? Laugh with me, laugh at me. I don't care.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much
for
joining
watching.
Yeah.
We had a good time. I hope you guys had a good time. And
you come to our regular Sunday night show, Sunday night, 7 o'clock. You guys know about that.
Yep.
And like this, you want to do this on Wednesdays or Thursdays? Let's just do it on Thursdays.
I don't mind.
Let's do that. Thursday night tech with Kiwi. I love that.
We'll give you all the high tech.
With a funny accent. With a funny accent.
I don't have a funny accent. You got a New York accent. That's a funny accent.
We both have obnoxious accents. Let's understand this, okay?
Well,
we're both irritating from a verbal standpoint to different parts of the,
You're really hard selling me on this coming back. giving me crap like this. Like, geez.
All right, guys. I'm gonna hit this thing and make it all go away.
All right.
Now.
See you guys.
All right, guys. Boom. And it's done.